Hi, this is Sarah, and I just wanted to talk to you about the reason that I called my training course Farcical Life. And many people have asked me this reason. Many people have also asked me what farcical means. And if you're a non-native English speaker, that is quite understandable. So allow me to explain. So farcical is an adjective that relates to or resembles a farce. So things that are ridiculous or absurd or improbable. And life, frankly, can be a bit of a comedy act. It can be exaggerated, it can be very funny, quite ridiculous and absurd at times, and improbable things happen. And simultaneously, life is truly brilliant. So, the purpose of Farcical Life Learning Journey is to learn to accept life as it is, accept the farce, find the funny side so that you can feel good no matter what happens. Now, you may be thinking, well, farce, that's a bit of a weird choice for a personal development program. And yet, think of it this way. If you can see life from a different perspective, then often that is the trigger that allows you to change how you feel about something. And if you can change how you feel about something, then actually your entire belief system, your value system can also move to support you. And whether or not you know it, you are far more familiar with the concept of farce than you might imagine. Do you remember these films? Fish Called Wanda, The Birdcage, Step Brothers, Life of Brian. You may or may not have seen Cary Grant's Arsenic and Old Lace. You probably have seen Date Night, which is much more recent, or The Hangover. And I'm sure you're familiar with The Pink Panther and Something About Mary. The Three Amigos, who knows? Firstly, I recommend all of these films because they are quite ridiculous and very, very funny. Now, let's talk about A Fish Called Wanda for a moment, which is John Cleese. And you may be familiar with John Cleese. He's also a member of Monty Python, and The Life of Brian is a Monty Python film. You may or may not be familiar with Fawlty Towers, and John Cleese really is the ultimate farce artist, in my opinion. And if you've watched any of these films, you'll know that some of the things that happen during these films are unlikely, improbable, ridiculous, absurd, and actually we find them very, very funny. So what is it that farce really teaches us? Well, it teaches us that if it's not happening to us, we can actually find it quite funny. And really, from a personal awareness perspective, this is just being able to take ourselves out of the situation and see our situation from the outside in order to find the humour. And it also stops us from taking life so seriously, because actually if we can step out and view our situation from a different perspective, things that we might find terrible or horrible can actually be quite funny. It also teaches us that life is and can be unpredictable, and that it's okay that it's unpredictable. In addition, things can go horribly wrong. Things can seem terrible, disastrous in a moment, and yet, big picture, they still all work out. I'm sure you've seen pies being thrown in faces, or I'm sure you've had an experience of going to a really important meeting and it hasn't rained all week, and then suddenly the heavens open and you are immediately getting wet. It's raining cats and dogs heavier than it's rained for about a year. Or you've spent an enormous amount of time preparing a meal and somebody else picks it up and drops it. Ridiculous things happen, and that is just life. So if we take ourselves too seriously, we can really have a negative response to farce or unpredictability, and that can manifest in sarcasm or the blame game, blaming somebody for what's happened, whether that somebody might be the universe or God or other people in our lives. That keeps us pretty stuck. can also create feelings of hopelessness or belief systems like I'm a disaster or life is against me, equally unhelpful, because life is a concept, so it's very difficult for a concept to be against you. Fast can also create a connection. I mean, when weird things happen, when unpredictable things happen, when shocking things happen, and when terrible things happen, we really like to think that it's happened to somebody else and that we're not alone. And sometimes when we're watching farce in films or TV shows, this is the kind of comfort feeling that we get. And you'll notice that when you watch farce, Mr. Bean is also farce. You get sort of either a real cringy kind of feeling because you know all the terrible things that are likely to happen, or you can just find it really funny. And this is kind of the same as life. You know, we have these polar opposites in our feelings about the way that we manage life and the way life, if we're going to look at it from that perspective, happens to us. And yet life just is, and it's always flowing and moving. So fast can also help us accept ideas that can otherwise be quite difficult to accept. And if we can approach life with an idea of, well, life just is, and I'm doing my best every day to navigate my way through life. And whether I'm navigating or whether I'm creating is really a point of development for you. And finally, just a reminder that when we watch farce, we are taking the observer perspective. And often we can see how things come to pass, how things happen, what leads up to certain things happening. And sometimes this also allows us to learn lessons about our own history and about our own experiences. And those lessons can be enlightening and very, very useful. And as I mentioned a moment ago, they can either become funny in our minds or they can become cringeworthy. And we all have probably an equal amount of both. I know I do. So that is the reason that it's called Farcical Life, and that is the concept behind Farcical Life Learning Journeys. And I really hope that you can come and join me, starting with part 1, and I look forward to working with you.